We have an unusually strong tornado and severe weather set up for February. This will be ongoing today and tomorrow. So let's go over that, and in a video tomorrow, we'll go over the winter weather setup. Starting off for today, we have an enhanced risk 3 out of 5 for much of the deep south. As you can see, this is driven by a tornado and a wind risk. So this tornado risk right over here is a 10% hatch for areas like Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama. Mississippi seems to be the main state that is in the threat, but Tennessee also has a tiny threat for this. And then as you can see, there also is a 10% non-hatch. That means that the tornadoes are still going to be there, but they're not going to be as strong as the ones in the hatch risk for areas like Tennessee and Alabama. A 45% risk of severe winds. So that is a high amount of chance. So this will be a linear system that moves through in areas like Mississippi and Alabama. And that's where you can see some crazy wind gusts out of this. And there's a small hail risk, and it is where we are likely to see the tornadoes is where the hail risk is. So let's start off with what this system looks like in the upper atmosphere. As you can see, we have a large positively tilted trough that is digging into areas like New Mexico right now. Due to this, we have a southwesterly flow in all of our areas that are going to experience severe weather. But as this trough continues throughout the day and the severe risk increases, as you can see, once we hit nighttime is whenever the severe risk will peak, and we can clearly see why. This trough has now switched to a negatively tilted trough, which is more favorable for severe weather. The upper winds have increased and become more southerly. They're now around a south-southwest. So this calls for a lot more severe weather in these areas. And then as we continue to play this through even further, as you can see, we have a risk in the Carolinas and Georgia and Florida tomorrow. As you can see, there will be much stronger winds, and this trough will also be negatively tilted. So let's look at the risk for today. So as you can see, currently how we are looking is we have this warm front that is starting to advect north. So this warm front will likely continue advecting north throughout the day, as you can see, until a triple point forms as the cold front comes rushing in. So as you can see, our low pressure system should position itself in northwestern Tennessee. So that's where our low is, and then our warm front should extend up there, and our cold front is right over here. So the areas where we're likely to see the greatest severe risk is just a couple miles south of that triple point. So areas like right over here. So let's switch to what the radar should look like. So this is how we're looking right now. Lots of rain along that warm front and the cold front, but nothing is severe yet. But if we continue to play this through, as you can see, this line along the cold front becomes way stronger. Storms along the warm front become way stronger, and even some prefrontal supercells are likely. If we play this loop through all the way, as you can see, this is a very, very strong line as it enters Tennessee and Mississippi. This will have lots and lots of damaging wind, and there will be lots of spin-up tornadoes along this line. There will likely be entire counties under tornado warnings later just because of the threat of these spin-up tornadoes. And then if we continue to play it through even further, you can see there's even prefrontals as far south as the Gulf Coast. Now let's look at our ingredients for this. So as you can see, the greatest ingredients will be just south of that triple point. So let's just take a sounding from here. As you can see, there does seem to be some type of surface inversion where the winds are a lot warmer aloft, which should limit our cape a little bit. But still, 1,500 joules of surface cape for February is crazy. Wind shear is very sufficient, and this photograph looks pretty great for being Dixie. There's quite effective ventilation in this for being Dixie. Although P-watts are quite on the high side, so it should be pretty hard to see these tornadoes as they're at night, and they should be pretty high precipitation. If this cap that's right over here in the surface area does not exist, then the severe risk is much heightened, as we'll have around 2,000 joules of cape. So it is a crazy environment that these storms are working with. Let's look at one more model and see what the environment is like. You can see the best environment does seem to be just south of that triple point, so let's take a sounding just right there. And it's showing just about the same thing, but that capping inversion that I was talking about in the surface is not there. There's a small cap as you go higher, around 3 kilometers, but due to that, there's 2,000 joules of cape. But the shear is a lot less on this, as the RAP model shows this cold front progressing a lot faster, which means the upper level support is not as strong, but this is still more than sufficient wind shear to get tornadoes and severe storms. And then let's look at our risk for tomorrow. As you can see, it's a slight risk down in areas like Florida and Georgia, and a marginal all the way up into the Delmarva. There is a 2% tornado risk in the Floridas and Georgia, and another 2% tornado risk in the Carolinas and Virginia. But this is driven by a wind risk all the way in a 15% down in Florida and Georgia, and then a 5% all the way up into the Delmarva. And the hail risk is low on this. You could see some pea-sized hail, but nothing out of the ordinary. So let's check this out. As you can see, as this line of storms progresses overnight, it continues into this area, and this is where the severe risk is for Florida and Georgia. This QRCS seems to be quite strong still. The damaging wind risk would definitely be there, and it could even impact the Daytona race tomorrow. Now let's look at the environment that we're working with. As you can see, the environment is much lessened, but areas like the Florida Panhandle still have a quite sufficient environment for damaging winds and even some tornadoes. Around 1,000 joules of CAPE and more than sufficient shear for tornadoes and severe storms. And then up into the mid-Atlantic, as you can see, there seems to be some prefrontal storms, but they don't look to do much damage. And the main severe weather causer is this line of storms that'll move through. The models are showing this be a broken line of storms, which could enhance the tornado risk, but that's only if we get enough CAPE up here. And the wind gusts in this area do seem to be some impactful wind gusts, up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts that are not storm influenced. Look at this, in the Raleigh area, non-storm influenced winds. As you can see, we are getting around 30 to 35 knots of wind. That's 40-mile-per-hour sustained winds, so that's like getting a tropical storm around here. So expect tropical storm winds tomorrow morning. But let's also see the environment that the storms are working with. So let's take it right there. So this environment is a lot less impressive due to one reason. Only 182 joules of CAPE. So these are much low-topped and not a lot of CAPE to work with. But if you can't get just enough CAPE, the shear is out of the water. Around 600 meters squared per second of surface 3-kilometer shear. And if you just look at that photograph, that is a very tornadic photograph. So honestly, it's sort of like the January 9th event last year. The shear is nowhere like that. The shear was 1,000 on that one. The high shear, low CAPE event, it's quite similar with the line coming through. So could see wind gusts like out of that event, and even could see some spin up tornadoes like that event. So that is really all. I will go over the winter storm that we are getting. As you can see, my computer is saying 10 inches of snow on Wednesday. We're not getting 10 inches of snow. But I will go over that. That'll impact a lot of the Mid-South, actually. So another Mid-South snowstorm. I know you Northeasters hate us, but we're getting it again. So I think Virginia will score big with that for sure. But that is really all. So I hope you guys did enjoy. And if you would like to see more videos like this, be sure to like and let me know in the comments. That is really all. I'll see you guys in the next video.